back to the Scruggs Show with your host, Natasha Scruggs. Today, we're going to talk about sports in COVID, during the revolution, during everybody getting back outside, and we have a special guest, Sports Gat, on Twitter, and she is the founder and CEO of the Kansas City Podcast Network. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
This is awesome. Can you just say a little bit more about like your history so people kind of know your resume when it comes to sports?
Absolutely. I started a podcast in 2014 called Sprats Takes. So it was kind of a play on people yelling about sports and how they just kind of get a little bit too hyphy about it sometimes on the internet mostly.
Right.
And so we ran with that for a while. It was all females. We've really focused on the all female aspect of it. In 2017, I became the first female to host a sports radio show in Kansas City ever.
Woo!
For a kid with a speech impediment, that's a pretty big deal, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I was not prepared for that one. I grew up hating sports radio because it gave me a headache, and then I started doing it for a living. Yeah, and then it's just like, all right, so here we go. And so it kind of launched this path of not just empowering women, but just kind of showing that you can do it without having the tags of, female sports radio host or whatever. I just want to be known as a media personality, and now I get to kind of foster everyone else's talent right now. So KCPN just started on April 20th, and we have, I think, like 100 episodes already.
That's
so
great.
It's just like constant content, all from Kansas City based people, all walks of life, all different topics. So we're always looking to grow. So that's the main thing.
That's awesome. So what kind of got your interest in sport, or what started your interest in sports?
Probably my dad. If I wanted to hang out with my dad on Sundays, I would have to watch sports. Or if I wanted to hang out with him on the weekend, he'd be glued to the KU game or something like that. And you just kind of grow to love it after a while. And I love the competition. I love being able to go to events and meet other fans. Anywhere you travel too, I'm sure you know this, because when you travel, if you see somebody with Kansas City stuff on, you make a beeline for them and you're just like, hey, I'm from there.
Right.
I just came from there.
Right.
So it's cool to see that kind of, especially after the Super Bowl.
That's interesting, because actually that's the same reason I got into sports, because of my dad. My dad wasn't really there, but like when I saw him, he was always watching the NBA. So my brother is 6'6", and he was playing basketball already. He wasn't 6'6" then, he was probably 6'1", but I was like, you know what, I'm going to start playing too, because I want to get his attention. So I started playing basketball, started watching the games, started really getting into Jordan and Kobe and everybody like that. And then I'm from St. Louis, so then when we won the Super Bowl in 2001, it was like kind of crazy. It was like, okay, now I'm going to really get into the NFL, really get into football. And then when I got into college, I went to Missouri Southern State University and I played basketball there. That's when I got into college sports. I was never into college sports until college.
That's awesome. I could see that though, because I was not really a K-State fan until I went to K-State, and then I fell in love with the school. So I get that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
So being in Kansas City, are you still a St. Louis fan? I have to ask.
This is what happened. We lost our team.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh.
The Rams.
Okay.
So then,
might have heard about that.
Right. I was like avoiding. I was like being a rebel, and I was saying, I'm not going to do anything Chiefs. I'm not going to be involved with the Chiefs until I think it was 2018 or 2019. I said, you know what? I'm going to have to come over to the Chiefs side. And then I had an opportunity, because I'm getting into sports law now. I had an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl this year and do like a lot of different sports law events. And while I was there, I got a Chiefs shirt, I got the Chiefs hat, and then I was like, accept me into the kingdom. I'm ready.
I am here for it.
I am. And now I'm newly a Royals fan. I've been loyal to the Cardinals, but I did not like the way that the Cardinals responded. I didn't like the Cardinals message that they put out. I can't really remember, but it was some sort of we love the police, we stand for them, you know. It was like an all lives matter thing. It wasn't like we're gonna identify, you know, our fans from St. Louis who have been having issues with police brutality, and I didn't like that. And I did like what the Royals said. The Royals were very strong, very clear. So about 2 weeks ago, I said I'm Team Royals now. So
it's a great time to get into baseball, you know, when we don't know what's happening or whatever. But and you make a really good point, because when your team doesn't support the things that you truly love and care about outside of sports, it's like, can you really stand behind them? So that brings up a good point. Hey, it's possible to go across I-70 and change allegiance. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I will never give you crap about that, ever.
But I love both the teams. I definitely love the Chiefs. You know what I really liked about, first of all, I'm in love with Andy Reid. Like, you can ask my brother. I keep talking about it. I'm like, oh, Big Red, he's so awesome. I'm really into astrology. So he's a Pisces and my best friend is a Pisces. And I just feel like I was talking about his loyalty, like his display of loyalty. Like, even last year when we had the worst defense in the league.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Even then, when everybody was kind of like on him to fire his guy who had been there, he trusted him and he let him lead. He didn't get rid of him until it was absolutely necessary. Like, he had no other choice, but you got to go. I like that. I mean, it's like he trusts the people on his squad to do their job, and he's very good at doing his job, and he doesn't have to overreach to be a leader. I also like the way that he got behind his players when they kind of did a press conference and he was saying, listen, my family told me to listen, my family told me to open my ears and to sit down. I like that better than somebody trying to be like fake woke and feel like they know everything. He's saying, listen, these are young guys, but I respect them, I love them, they're my players, and I want to listen to them. I mean, that's an amazing leader to do that.
He's been through a lot in Kansas City, and you bring up great points that, not every single coach in the NFL right now is doing what Andy Reid is doing by being outspoken and really getting behind Mahomes' message of wanting to do more with the community and really wanting to do better for the community, and having some sort of initiative call to action, I think, is amazing with what they have been announcing that they plan to do community-wise. And so I really believe that the voter registration is the right move. I also believe if you would have asked me this like a week ago, I would have been like, burn it all to the ground. Don't encourage people to vote. Like, screw the system. I've had a few revelations that I think that, like you said, with astrology, I truly, like, after like discovering astrology, I went full blown, and actually hired an astrologer. I don't want to talk about it, but it's fine. I love her, Lily. I'm not ashamed of you. But you really start to realize that this is just pain. This is pain happening right now. But right now we have the opportunity to really research the people that we have in our communities to get behind, and we can be the most informed generation of our time, like of this time that we will see on this planet, and we could do better, and we can vote the people in that do fit our policies. So if you're going to register to vote, know who you're voting for too. That's the only thing I ask. It's like, if you get out there and vote, just don't vote blindly because of party, and actually do look up and see what people are representing and want to do to your community too.
Right. And I tip my hat to Pat and to the other players that got involved in that, because they were trying to see what could they do to not overstep, into some of the activist lanes, and not to, underperform or what's the word I'm looking for?
I mean, I guess underrepresent too.
Yeah, underrepresent. They wanted to make their position very clear, and they wanted to do something that the Chiefs could get behind. I mean, that's amazing. Like, I mean, has any other team done that yet?
I don't know of any other team that has. I'd like to say that this is showing a lot of progression, because over the last few years, there's been issues with people saying there's locker room issues with Marcus Peters saying too much and all this, and the Chiefs don't support. He was the only one kneeling, right? And so a lot of people were saying that the Hunt family doesn't support. Well, I think we have our answer now, that when faced with a situation that none of us have ever really lived through before, they're going to step up and do what's right.
Right, and I like that they did that right before they started really pushing out that they were practicing, because it was like the coaches came back to the office, then they did the press conference, and now they're showing us that, look, we're still in shape, we're still trying to get ready, we still want to play if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing workout videos all over the place. I think Let It Fly Media has been doing a lot of them right. To see like all the different players and what they've been up to in the off season, and it really still is the off season for them. They just won a Super Bowl.
True.
I don't know what I'm going to do without football in the fall. If it looks like we're not going to be...
the first game, supposedly.
Yeah, I may or may not be planning a giant tailgate. I'm not going to say that that's going to be, like the worst case scenario that I have to cancel a tailgate. It's scary.
What if they do the games without any fans?
So like they're all San Diego Chargers, or excuse me, LA Chargers games now. Like,
that's so mean.
Their own players came out and said like, yeah, we don't have fans, so it's not really anything different. Like a couple hundred people show up. It's like people in LA used to have other things to do. Now everything's shut down. Maybe if you only offer football as a way to get out of the house, you put everybody in bubble suits. I don't know. Right. I don't know how this is going to work out.
I don't either. No, I really don't.
you're a lawyer, not a doctor, so I feel like we could see, like, I don't know, like some sort of Dr. Fauci is supposed to have answers, and I'm like, man,
he doesn't.
No.
And I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the legal side, and I'm going to reach out to Christopher Shea. He's the compliance director, the general counsel, general manager, something like, not general manager, general counsel over the Chiefs. Cool. And I want to know what legal steps are they taking to make sure that, what if something does happen? What if a few of the players do get it or continue to get it? Or what if some of the workers get it? Because if you have players, you got to have trainers, you got to have food, you got to have drinks, you got to have the lights. You got to have so many things, and all of these people have to be together. Now, they can still play the 6 feet thing like you and I are doing, but how much can they do that, throughout the whole season?
And then what are the fans going to be doing? Because I'm season ticket holder. I feel like it would probably be applied to future games, but we're looking at things saying that this might not, wrap up for a couple of years. And I'm sitting here like, I don't know what I'm going to do without football. I can live without football for that long.
The whole year.
Yeah. I don't remember a single time in my life that we didn't have it. So it's just one of those.
Yeah. That's kind of odd. It was surreal when the NBA said that we're done. It was surreal. So I can see it happening. What I don't want to happen is I don't want it to be like, okay, we got 2 games in or 3 games in, and then now the season is shut down. It's like, I feel like since it's been all these months, why isn't anything planned? That's the one thing I would, ask the people who are in charge of the NFL schedule. We can't just be like, the NFL's going full speed ahead. That's been the whole answer. Like, the NFL's not going to change their schedule. It's like, what if we have to change the schedule? What if things have to happen? Then what?
I don't know how that will work out. I'm barely able to get out of the house myself most days on my own schedule because I'm just a chaotic person. I can't imagine trying to get all the personnel, all the equipment that you need to do just for a normal game safely. Safely is the other thing, because if you are understaffed, then what happens if players get hurt, and then that's their career, that's their livelihood, that's everything, and it's all gone. And we've seen what happens in college. I know that you've been very outspoken about paying NCAA players, but when those players get injured in college, they have nothing to fall back on. Nothing. These NFL players do at least have some sort of safety net, but if they don't have a season, do they file unemployment too? It's just like they're also out of a lot of money on some levels, and some of these guys that are on practice squad and all that, they live pretty much already paycheck to paycheck. We saw it in the minor leagues in baseball.
Exactly.
How owners are having to actually pay their players like a livable wage. It's crazy. But the whole landscape of sports just right now is such a huge question mark.
It's just a big question mark. Mm-hmm. Right. I just got an email yesterday from the NFLPA, and, they represent the players' interests, and they sent out something to like all people who either own an organization or own a company, and they were saying, hey, would you take NFL players, and I'm not making this up, would you take NFL players as externs or interns if the season doesn't happen? Like, they're trying to get the players more skills besides just playing football, because if they can't just play football, what else are they going to do? I thought that was interesting, and so I think that the NFL itself is not thinking about that, but I think that the organizations that represent players, like the agents, like, the players associations, may be worried about that, because I'm sure they're getting a million calls a day saying, hey, what are we going to do?
Yeah, and you look at what happened with the NFL. Roger Goodell did not put that video out himself of the Black Lives Matter. It was his interns that did it behind his back, and then he had to respond to it. Right. So don't let anyone fool you that Roger Goodell actually cares. I think he was just more or less like, well, this video exists now, so I better talk about it. Right. And you just have to wonder if that wouldn't have happened, where they would have gone, what their next move was, because everyone that I've seen has just kind of been tone deaf about it. I feel like the best people that are handling it, who would you say are handling the sports updates and the athlete management and all that the best? What league would you say?
Maybe the NBA, maybe, but I still don't know, because we got to get to the end of this month.
Yeah.
So I can see what's going to happen with this whole Orlando trip.
Yeah.
But I think that individual teams have been responding. I think that the players, I really enjoyed that video that they did, because it seemed as though when Kaepernick did it years ago, that it wasn't like he was standing alone, but it didn't seem like he had as much camaraderie and as much support from his teammates and different things like that. Now it seems like if one person says it or if your leader says it, a lot of the guys, they're not scared. Because honestly, when Kaepernick was saying that, it wasn't that the guys didn't agree, but they were scared. I mean, people were explicitly telling the players and the coaches, do not let your players kneel. Do not let your players talk about social justice. I mean, I have a friend, Christian Kirksey, who was on the Browns at the time. He was the captain. Now he just went to a different team. But their coaches were telling them, like, listen, don't do it. And some of them were still doing it. But it's a risk when this is your livelihood. And it would have been better if back then the teams would have supported and the head, Roger Goodell, would have supported them. And now, like, fast forward to 2020, you know, for them to put out that statement, it was kind of a slap in the face of everybody who had been kneeling, everybody who had been trying to just use their voice peacefully in the NFL. It was a slap in their face, like, oh, now you guys care about it? And Kaepernick still doesn't have a job. You know, he's kind of been just discarded. It's really sad that that's going to be like his history. Like, it's going to be in the books of this is what happened to him just because he wanted to kneel.
It is, and I think that this is a really good opportunity, and I think the NFL still has time to do this. I mean, there's a $250 million pledge on the table that the NFL promised fans and the players and everything else. They could easily make that a position. First, they need to apologize to Colin Kaepernick more than anything else. A public, direct apology to the man would be the bare minimum that they could do. The best thing that they could do would be offer him a position, specifically being overseeing the $250 million pledge for the next, I think, 10 years. So I don't know if it'd be more a slap in the face for Kaepernick to be used as like a, hey, we're a good team kind of pawn for anyone to take him on as a quarterback right now. I think that would be a step backwards for him, even though it would finally kind of get like, hey, I can still play football. It'd be good vindication, but like what's going to be bigger for the movement? It's going to be bigger for him to step into a position where he finally has the power and the voices to get done what he has wanted to do, and he could use influences from other areas of his life, advisors and conversations that he has privately. I know that he has conversations with a lot of athletes one-on-one, and definitely did when he first came out with his statement and his mission. And I think that he would be a perfect person to do that. Will the NFL, kind of put their tail between their legs and offer that direct apology? Who knows? But at the same time, that would be a step in the right direction, I think. But if he came back as a player too, that'd be amazing. Whatever makes him truly happiest.
Yeah, I think that based on his social media and based on what he said, he really just has like a desire to play. And so I think that he would be able to manage both. I think that he could put a team together because he already has, several different operations going. I think that if they did put him in charge of that would show us a sign of good faith, show that they are really sorry after the apology, like you said, but also if he was able to get a real shot. I mean, we don't know because unfortunately, or I don't want to say unfortunately, factually he settled, and we don't know what the evidence was, as far as who is blackballing him, who doesn't want him to play, what has been said. But if there were coaches that were saying don't hire Cap, if there were, blocks in place, those blocks should be removed and somebody should put him on his team. Now, yes, would it be symbolic? Yes. Would it be, the perfect time for them to do it and it could be like a PR stunt? Yes. But he still wants to play, and the National Football League is the best league in the world. So, I mean, what else can he do? I definitely think that he should have been in charge. Like, if we go back to when they promised that pledge, he should have been a part of that conversation anyway, because that's the only thing that he was trying to do. And when the NFL decided to make that pledge, it was a little bit disingenuous to me, because the only thing that Kaepernick asked the NFL to do was just to not discriminate against him. He wasn't even talking directly to the NFL when he was kneeling or when he was talking about social justice. He was specifically talking about the police departments and, the prosecutors and the judges. And it's like the NFL they just immediately took a side and started opposing him. And that's why it's like, for them to say, okay, this is what Kaepernick wanted. No, Kaepernick wanted to keep his job, to protest peacefully, to invoke his First Amendment rights, just like every other American has the right to do. And you guys infringed on his right and didn't want him to do it and made it so that he couldn't get a job. And that's why he settled. So it's a big mess. But hopefully by the end of 2020, which we don't even know if we're going to have a whole season, but there are rumors that the Chargers are looking at him. There are rumors that other teams are looking at him. So who knows?
Yeah, and you also have to go back to the Rooney Rule and how outdated that is and how they were trying to frickin' make it, like, trying to overturn all this stuff. And I'm just like, I just don't think that the NFL can get away with using black people as props anymore. Right. I don't think it's okay.
It's not.
To only value someone's life when they're playing on the field for you and making you money.
Yeah.
You have to care about your entire team. And I think the Chiefs, while it might not be in 2017 when they did it, they won a Super Bowl and there might not be a season. I think they're going to go all in on whatever they can to keep their players happy right now. And I think what's going to make them happy is seeing them kind of dedicate some outspokenness. The Hunt family is not traditionally known for coming out with big statements. When they drafted Tyreek Hill, when they had some questionable things going on with their front office and their decision making, they kind of remained quiet on a lot of issues. But you see progress with this and you see the change happening, and I think that's what people need to see. And I think that the fans need to take it seriously too.
Yeah.
And if you care about football and you care about your team, well, look who's predominantly on these teams. It's people of all different backgrounds.
Right.
And you don't just have everyone from the inner city and poverty. There's people that grew up in the suburbs too.
Yeah.
And people that grew up from all walks of life. So it's just like the team, I don't think is ever the problem. I feel like if there's a locker room issue, that the team kind of takes care of it themselves.
True.
I feel like it's always the front office just getting in their own heads, like, what will people think? It's like, who cares? Do the right thing.
Right. And that's why I commend the Chiefs, because they listen to the younger guys, the guys who, just like Pat said, he loves all of his teammates. They all, have a camaraderie. They all get along. It's not like they don't have any internal issues, but they do have issues with what's going on to black people outside of them. And they should be able to say that with autonomy. They shouldn't be able to, they shouldn't have to be quiet about things that they care about. And I think that, like you said, if you are a true fan, if you are a true American, you would get behind these people. All they're trying to do is say Black Lives Matter. They're just trying to say, people shouldn't get murdered by the police. People should have the right to due process, all the rights that we have. That's all they're trying to say. And I feel like if you do support these boys, you do understand where they come from. You do understand their background, their family. That's one thing I liked about what Pat said too in his press conference. He was talking about, he has cousins and who have been to jail, who have been to prison. That shouldn't be a whispered thing. I myself am a prison abolitionist, and I believe that a lot of the stuff shouldn't be punished by jails or prison. And I do believe in the ultimate dismantlement of the system as is anyway. So I don't want us to have a optic, image of, okay, this is the type of black man we're talking about. No, we're talking about all black men and women, all people of all races in general, no matter if they went to prison, no matter if they're poor, no matter if they're handicapped, no matter if they're LGBT. We just want everybody to be free. We want everybody to have freedom. And specifically right now, black people have been oppressed by the same system, and we just want to change that. So I like that that was very strong. And I feel like it's like the part 2. It's like the sequel of Colin Kaepernick saying that, and now he's saying it, but he's getting support. It's like, I wish that could have happened with Kaepernick back in the day.
For real. And you see the different aspects of what happens when you have the public behind you. And that's what I think the media should be held accountable for, not informing the public of all angles and then, kind of mocking the uninformed public when they don't know everything.
Right.
And then it's like, whose job is it to inform these people? Like, whose responsibility does it fall on to make sure that people are aware of what's actually going on? And it falls on the people. So I think that, like, the more informed that we can be as a public, that's going to really threaten the institutionalized oppression. You're not gonna see people, not know their rights anymore. They're going to be able to have dialogue with police the way that police have dialogue with police, and then more aware of pretty much everything around you as you can be, and documenting things. Yes, you're obviously in your rights to do that and videotape police, and there's apps coming out to help keep people safer. But I think the biggest thing is that we have to have these conversations that might be uncomfortable for a lot of people to understand, like, well, why can't we say all lives matter? It's like, all right. And so the memes coming out are great. The cartoons coming out are great to explain this. But 2017 is when I stopped caring about sports for a really huge part of my career. And I haven't really talked about it much because everywhere I would go, somebody was trying to debate or argue with me or fight me about, do you believe that Colin Kaepernick should be kneeling? And every single person wanted to tell me personally why they thought yes or no. And it became like, you guys are really making me not respect you at all with these opinions. Like, how can you be that dense? The same people are like, oh, I kind of get it now, and I kind of see it, and so that's great.
That's the
Admit you're being wrong.
But
yeah, it's like that's fine. But you really have to just, like Andy Reid said, listen. Just sit back, listen, support Black businesses as much as you can, and really be somebody that can speak out. If you see injustice, speak out against it. You can't just do it on the internet and then not, actually do anything in real life. I mean, you can do a lot on the internet, though. I think that's proven. This generation is going to be probably one of the most powerful generations because of all the information that we have at our fingertips.
But I think it's media. Like, what role do you think media plays? Like you just said, you were talking about, the TV media or the media personalities, but then cell phones are media, social media. Social media is the biggest media right now. But what role of importance do you put on the local media or, media reporting on things?
I think that's kind of why I started KCPN, is because I saw a lack of diversity, a lack of being able to truly speak your mind and hearing voices from all over the place in Kansas City. I feel like we hear a very cherry-picked narrative a lot of the times with coverage and what people are really allowed to say. A really specific example, I think most people in Kansas City can remember the uprising against the Kansas City media last summer, through the spring with the Tyreek Hill case, and through Kevin Keatsman flat out saying that Andy Reid can't win big games because he can't discipline his son, and that's why his son died of a drug overdose.
That was so rude.
Kansas City hasn't had a great look on it right now. I still do national interviews all the time at Oakland not that long ago, and they were still asking me about what happened with Tyreek Hill. And so I go back and I explain it all. I explain from start to finish why I think that Kansas City Star and KCTV5 still owe Tyreek Hill and his family an apology for what they put them through and the media circus that they created through doctoring information. I mean, like, you can't doctor audio.
Yeah,
and then
they just chopped it up.
That's not how this works. So
I remember the day that the full audio dropped. It was like everybody, it was crazy. I just kept hearing the whole audio everywhere.
Yeah. The Peanut, where I was, I actually had like 2 different meetings there. I'm always at the Peanut on 127th.
I love the Peanut.
Yeah, it's the best. I'm at the one back in OP, so not a lot of people come down there. But they had the audio on, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, this is what I was just listening to in my car, and it was just on a repeat, and everyone was just like, really? This is what we're doing? Like, but props to 610 for getting that. I mean, like, it is amazing that they were dedicated to actually putting themselves out there and putting themselves on the line. And I think it really showed people in Kansas City what's possible when media doesn't tell you the truth or the full truth or the full story. Yeah. All the information, we don't even know the full truth still. A lot of people are always going to have their reservations about things. But I think what we learned is that there is a system in place that favors painting a narrative of things just to get people riled up and get people skewed, and the media really interferes with due process a lot of the time.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of times when people try to say that the media can help, but it can hurt just as bad. If you put out a narrative about somebody, that's going to be it. Once somebody hears something one time, it's like, that's it. Because most people don't go and research. I like to go research. I like to dive deep. I'm a little bit of a nerd that way. I feel you. But most people just look at the headline. So if the headline says something disparaging that's not true, that can definitely be a huge issue. So I agree. I think that the media had to, especially back then, they had to take a good look in the mirror, see what's going on, fix it, verify sources, make sure that everything is right. And like you said, they're still working on that because people still don't have like full trust in it.
Right. And I think Kansas City, more than ever, you see independent media companies popping up. You see people creating their own content, especially during this pandemic. That's why it's important to me to make sure that people, if they don't have the resources to create their own platform, or if they don't know what they're doing quite yet, I would love to help them. I'd always love to help spread different opinions and, topics of all sorts. Right now, we're all over the place with our network, but a lot of it is sports. So I'm still kind of curious that the guys have kind of gone into like trivia games during the shows, and they're kind of just adapting, but we're all going to have to. But with Kansas City, I think we saw what A10 did with Kevin Keatsman. They apologized. They actually said that they were sorry directly to what happened, and he still got fired. Everything was taken care of, I feel like. But I think the future in Kansas City is going to be by, the citizens that have a lot to say, and we're seeing it more and more with the live feeds. That's basically, you can turn that into a podcast. If you have a phone, definitely. You can do anything. There's a lot of like gadgets and stuff that you'll have to purchase along the way, but it's not completely unreasonable to have your own channel. And there's been independent bloggers that have been doing that and investigating Kansas City crime and the police department this entire time. So, I mean, I think it's incredible to look out there. Do you take everything as verified fact? I mean, that's up to you. You kind of have to make sure that you're being responsible with what you share and what you tell people about. But I think it's important to at least hold yourself accountable and then hold the people in media and those powerful positions that can influence huge amounts of people responsible for what they say.
Yeah. I do want to take the time to let you guys know, make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, everything. Speaking of that, since you just brought that up, I had some issues with the media earlier in the month because a lot of the talk about the protesters to me was very disparaging. And this is before I decided to represent them pro bono. But a lot of it was negative and they weren't really talking about the police. And it's funny that you say that it had individual people have to use their voice, because I feel like because people like me and other people were saying like, hey, you know, it's not the protesters that are out there, you know, starting this stuff. The police are like agitating, they're doing certain things, and people were recording, that the police had to take a step back because, you know, as you saw on Twitter, they were saying, hey, we're not going to use tear gas anymore. We're not going to use pepper spray anymore, because at first they were acting like it was absolutely necessary to use that. And they were doing a lot and they were getting like national criticism. And that started because of, like you said, local Kansas City people recording saying, hey, don't do this, and also holding the media people accountable. And people that are in the media who were just coming out there and didn't know what was going on, they started to actually listen to the people. So I think that that's a good point to make.
And having conversations doesn't mean that you have to have like debates. You don't have to like scream at people, insult them. Half of my conversations that I love having are with old dudes at random bars that, you know, I'm either working out of or meeting people at. And I usually will just talk to them about like life and everything. And then they'll slowly bring up what's happening. Mm-hmm. They're like, I didn't think that you would want to hear anything that I have to say. I'm like, I am nosy. I will always want to listen and know what other people have to say. And it's just a matter of finding common ground. We might not agree on everything, but just have the conversations and know that, you know, not everybody is your enemy, but at the same time, really take into consideration the pain and the hurt that's going on right now too, because we're not done yet. There's no like, okay, we posted our little square, now it's over. Like, no, that's not what happens.
Right. It's going to be ongoing. It's going to be an everyday thing. And I feel like I'm very optimistic, and I think that I could see us different. I can see the world different. I can see us without having state actors that can kill people. I can see, you know, people be able to have a conversation. I can see more diversity in front offices in big corporations, NFL, NBA, MLB, whatever the case may be. And I'm very hopeful of that. And if someone's willing to listen to me, I'm definitely willing to listen to them. And I'm also willing to talk to them and let them know my story, let them know my perspective, because it's not really out there that much. But thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. This has been amazing.
Yeah, I wish we could talk for hours and hours, but
yes.
I'll definitely have to have you back on so we can talk. Hopefully we'll be talking about the NFL season if it happens. But thanks for coming out.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.